Hey y'all, welcome to Soul Centered. We had to work out a couple technical difficulties there. Rabbi Baruch Levi, Rabbi B, or just B. So thank you for joining us. Going to go solo today. So multitasking. Hi Sandra. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to go solo. Ariella had something come up last minute, so she's tending to that. And I'm going to minimize the singing for your suffering or lack thereof in mine. It's not my passion in life, although I enjoy chanting. So we'll do some chanting. But the bottom line is Ariella usually carries us with her beautiful voice. So she won't be here to do that. We're going to also mix it up a little bit and just go a little more free-flowing and casual. I'm going to do more talking since I'm a rabbi. That's what we do. Going to do some more talking and really recap the Sefirot, the Kabbalistic tree of life. It's how we experience the divine. And Kabbalah, I'll be talking more about it, but really Kabbalah is the architecture of the soul and how we experience our soul in this world. So we're going to dive into that. Before begin, just for those of you who join us, sometimes people just tune in for the first time or watch it afterwards. Soul Centered is a center for loss, for meaning, for healing. We help guide people through really all of life's transitions. I call them the T's: trials, transitions, tests, traumas, tragedies, and again, all transitions. And these are the pivotal moments in our lives where we can really head in multiple directions. And so Ariella and I both work with clients, counseling, one-on-one, as well as small group and larger experiences like this one, to give people resources and tools and support and direction during the transitions. I know in my life, pivotal moments, pivotal transitions, I've needed somebody outside of myself, somebody who's been there or who's certainly empathetic and can understand and has resources and tools that I might not have otherwise. And so that's what we do. We work with clients, we work with people to guide them, to guide you through these transitions. And the Soul Xperience is simply a way to support transition. Whether or not you work with us as clients, we want to offer this to make sure that people have these types of resources, especially at times of difficulty. All kinds of transitions. They're all times of deaths and beginnings. That's what a transition is. It's an end of something and it's the beginning of something else. And so we need these tools and these resources to help navigate through with purpose and with meaning. And that's my thesis in life, is if you have purpose, if you have meaning, you can navigate anything. So the Soul Xperience is just our Saturday version of what we do, seen through the lens of Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism. It's for anybody. It's for everybody. It is not simply for Jewish people. We really do not care where you come from or what you believe. We just care that you have somebody to support you on your journey, and that's what we do. That's why we're here. So we're going to use some of these tools from Kabbalah, from the Jewish mystical tradition on Saturday morning. I'm going to do far less of them than we normally do on a regular Soul Xperience. But we will do it because I don't want to just jump into conversation. I think it's important to open our minds and open our hearts first. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the tree of life, the Kabbalistic emanations of the divine. We're going to first get there by settling down, settling in. How about just a chant of Shalom? Shalom is a simple word, but not such a simple concept. Shalom means hello. It means goodbye. It means peace. But it also, from a spiritual perspective, means shlemut, which means wholeness. And so we chant this to really kind of integrate our life. The word integrity, I love the word integrity, integral, whole. And during the week, we become fractured. We become fragmented. So busy doing, human doings, in the words of Wayne Dyer. But we're supposed to be human beings. And so for 6 days of the week, we do, and we create. And on the seventh day, we stop and we receive. And we integrate, and we bring it all together. And so that's what we're going to do. I'm playing multiple roles today. I'm doing IT as well as cantor, as well as rabbi. So hi, Lori. I'm glad you could join us. Welcome. So we're just going to settle in by doing some chanting. One word, shalom. Feel free to join me. Shalom. 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 So this word Om, taught by my teacher Wayne Dyer, is part of most mystical traditions. It is the sound of completion. Om, it's a closed sound, and Dr. Dyer talks a lot about Om and Ah. Ah is the converse, it's the opposite. So you have Om energy and you have Ah energy. Om as in shalom, or as just in chanting Om, it's a closed sound. And so what we do is we use this as a tool to harness our energy and really bring some integrity, some wholeness to our life through this chanting, and really kind of quiets the noise. It harnesses this energy. It's a it's the sound of vibration. It's the sound of the universe. And really thinking about that. And then the Ah sound is the opposite. And we'll do that. Maybe we'll do that today. Ah is creation. It's the sound of God, Yah. It's Buddha, Krishna, Yeshua. That's the Hebrew name for Jesus. Yah, Yahweh, Allah. Most of the names of divinity have the Ah sound in them because it's the creative process. And so we use Ah as a creative sound to really open up. It's an open-ended sound, syllable. Ah, and Om as a closing sound, as a way to harness our energy. So just two different energies, two different spiritual practices. How about we'll do Modeh. Modeh is a chant, very simple chant. Again, if you're Jewish, you're not Jewish, it doesn't matter. I teach Christians all the time. It's the language of Jesus, Hebrew and Aramaic, which is a variation of Hebrew. And so whether you're Jewish, whether you're Christian, whether you're neither, these are ancient sounds and ancient words, and they can take us into the heart of this spiritual practice, the soul experience on Saturday morning, the Sabbath, Shabbat. So how about Modeh? If you want these words, you can go to the mysoulcentered.org website under tools, and you can download them. It's called the Soul Sheet. I think it's also somewhere on the Facebook Soul Centered page as well. But you don't need them. It goes like this. The first words we're supposed to say in the morning as well as Modeh. It means gratitude or grateful. Modeh ani lefanecha ruach chai v'kayah. Modeh ani lefanecha ruach chai v'kayam. 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 Hi, Wendy. Thanks for joining us. Ariella is not here today. It is me, myself, and I going solo, but I have you. So I have you all. So you will join me, I'm sure. I'm just making sure that we're up and running on all of our platforms. We're now on YouTube and Periscope, and of course, many of you joining us on Facebook. And my default, my preferred place to go, and would love for you to be there, is our soul-centered Facebook group. And so we have a group and a page. If you go to the group, you can join, and we're communicating, we're conversing with our community there primarily. So I'd love to have you join us. But as long as you're with us, wherever you found us, we're grateful to have you. And today I'm really kind of mixing it up a little bit. I'm sharing a little more of my practice, what I would do if Ariella wasn't here, because she isn't here. I have a more of a contemplative, quiet chanting practice, using some of these prayers. I don't do most of them most of the time. To me, tefillah prayer is a struggle. It's one of the reasons why I retired from being a pulpit rabbi, to be quite frank. I didn't fully believe what I was saying up there. I don't really feel the words most of the time. I believe deeply in the divine. I believe deeply in pathways to get there. I don't like the structure so much of fixed prayer. I don't even think that that's really what it's supposed to be, quite honestly. I do believe in the idea of tefillah. That's the Hebrew word for prayer, but it's not what most Jewish people think it means. Lehitpalel, which is where it comes from, is a reflexive verb. It's something we do to ourselves. Lehitpalel is an inward journey. It's not an outward calling out to God, and that has its place. It's just not my place. I don't really cry out to God. And I guess in my times of desperation, I do. But day to day, moment to moment, I really try and go inwards to find the divine. And it's more of a contemplative, quiet practice. And so, again, we all have our different pathways. And when I would stand in front of a community and try and lead them in prayers of, their tradition, I never really felt the connection. And I'm committed in life to living a life of integrity, of honesty and truth. And so I realized at that point, that's partially why I need to step aside and find my own path and create my own way. And so that's what tefillah is, lehitpalel, to go inwards and to fill ourselves up. And so one of the ways I do that is chanting from all kinds of traditions, but especially the Kabbalistic mystical tradition. And here's a chant that I use to fill myself up, to feel the connection, to raise the vibration. I think of God in many ways as energy. And I know when I'm low energy, I'm disconnected. And what I need to do is raise my vibration, raise my energy level up, and I feel connected. And I use this Rabba emunatecha as a way to raise my sacred vibration. Rabba emunatecha, Rabba emunatecha, Rabba emunatecha, munatecha. Ramba emunatecha, Rabba emunatecha, Ramba emunatecha, munatecha. Rabba emunatecha, Ramba emunatecha, Ramba emunatecha, munatecha. Rabba emunatecha, Rabba emunatecha, Ramba emunatecha, munatecha. Rabba emunatecha, Rabba emunatecha, Rabba emunatecha, munatecha. Rabba emunatecha, Rabba emunatecha, Rabba emunatecha, munatecha. Rabba emunatecha, Rabba emunatecha, Rabba emunatecha, munatecha. And so this is a waking up process. In the morning, we use these chants to really raise our vibration so that we can serve the divine, fulfill our purpose in our unique way, and that is to find our our rhythm, our voice, and to go out into the world and to take that energy out into the world. And so we're using all of these to really harness our energy and to direct our energy and to move forward out into the world, to share our energy, our divine energy, our love. And as we do, we continue to really think about integrity. You know, when we live out our voice, our purpose, we are living with integrity. When we live out somebody else's purpose for us, somebody else's voice, we're living with a lack of integrity. And really using these prayers as an opportunity to go inward, as I talked about before, this idea of prayer, not as outward calling out, but inward introspection and figuring out, right, who we are and why we're here and how we're living, and are we living, right, in rhythm with our soul, with our purpose, with our calling. And when we're not, we're out of sync. And we use these prayers in this time to come back to our calling, to our voice, to our rhythm. I'm just going to do a couple more kind of centering prayers, and then we're going to talk a bit about the divine and experiencing the divine from a Kabbalistic perspective in our lives. This will be the final segment. We've been doing it for 7 weeks, and I'll explain why, but this will be the final segment on that. And Ariella is watching us. She's busy tending to some of the affairs of a house, busy, chaotic house. So I'm going solo and I miss her voice, but she'll be here next week. So with that, I'm going to do this chant that I use every morning called Le'olam. Again, it's on your soul sheet if you want to download it on the Soul-Centered website under tools, but you don't need it. You can also just kind of hum to chant. It's a chant that I use about living inwardly and outward with shalom, with wholeness, with integrity. It goes like this. Le'olam Yehei Adam Yeh Shamayim B'seteh uv'galui u'modeh al ha'emet v'dover emet bilvavo v'yasheh v'yomah. You can just go ya ya ya, hey ya 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 hey ya 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 ya, hey ya 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 ya, hey ya ya, hey ya ya ya. Hi ya 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 Le'olam Yehei Adam Yireh Shamayim B'seteh uv'galui u'modeh al ha'emet v'dover emet bilvavo v'yashgeh v'yomah v'nazdam le'olam Yehei Adam Yireh Shamayim B'seteh uv'galui u'modeh al ha'emet V'dover emet bilvavo v'yashgeh v'yomah. So the words of this, hi Beth, nice to have you here. In case you tuned in for Ariella, she's watching, but she's not on because had a little house issue earlier, but it's all good, all good. She'll be back next week. So I use this as a chant to make sure to check my integrity, to make sure I'm living externally and internally one and the same. And when I'm not, right, I feel like I'm lacking this kind of congruence. And what happens is I work with clients on this midlife and onwards transitions to align our values and our actions, to make sure our professions and our personal life, our spiritual life, right, and our external lives are all in sync. And it's not easy. But what happens when we're not in sync is the energy doesn't flow. It's like disconnecting wires from a circuit, and there's brokenness. And so we become fragmented. In Hebrew, Kabbalah, the Hebrew word for evil is actually not evil. It's brokenness, ra. For those of you who go to synagogue on the high holidays, you know that the shofar blast, right? Teruah, the shofar is the ram's horn, and we sound it. And so there's 3 blasts. The tekiah, where it goes, it's the sound of the ram's horn. And then we go shvarim, which is a broken blast. And then we have the shattered blast. That's the word, shattered. And it's called teruah. And it comes from the Hebrew ra, which again doesn't mean evil. It means shattered. And it goes da 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 da. So what is evil? Evil is, it's not, if brokenness goes unchecked, it becomes evil. If you look at homicides, if you look at mass shootings, what do all the shooters have in common? Not demographic issues. Almost invariably, there is loneliness. They're described as loners, as ostracized. Doesn't mean that's going to lead to mass shooting, but it is some of the key ingredients behind destruction. Loneliness. And loneliness is fragmented. And it doesn't just happen. It happens over time. And so what happens is we live a life scattered and fragmented and again, false fronts and presenting ourselves as one thing, but we really feel another thing that catches up to us. And we feel fragmented and fractured and broken. And so this chant that we just did, in any chant, is reconnecting the circuits. It's reintegrating all the pieces of our lives. And that's the work I do with clients, is we do a lot of work about aligning, again, our values, our identity, our actions, our profession, our relationships. Because again, if it's all fractured, the energy can't flow. And so we create flow in this process. And that's going to be our talk in a few minutes, the divine flow, and how to really tap into these different aspects of God and connect it and bring it into our lives and feel powerful and go forward with this energy, right? We talk about being energized. Why isn't that the divine? Why isn't that God? It is the divine. It is God. And really rethinking about our relationship with God through this idea of energy and flow and rhythm. And one last chant before we talk about it. This is my favorite chant. Actually, no, I'm not going to do my favorite chant without Ariel. It's call and response. It doesn't really go as well. So I'm going to do my other favorite chant. One simple word, amen. Amen, amen, amen. Amen, amen, amen. Hallelujah, amen, amen. Hallelujah, hallelujah, amen, amen, amen. Amen, 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 amen. Hallelujah, amen, amen. Amen, amen. So we're going to talk today, the final conversation. It's been 7 weeks of 7 days, of course, which is 49. 7 is the creation number in the Bible, in the Torah, in the blueprint of the world. It's the rhythm of our daily lives, of course, 7 days in the week. It's in Hebrew, it's the letter Zayin is the letter for the phallus, the penis, and it is in ancient times the symbol of fertility. And that's where it comes from, 7, this idea of fertility and creation. And so what happens on Passover or Easter really are the same kind of themes of a rebirth for Christians, rebirth of Christ, and Jews, a rebirth for freedom coming out of slavery. And it's in the springtime, so it's all about rebirth. And then you go through this journey through the wilderness. The Israelites don't become free the day Moses shows up. Marielle and I spoke about it 7 weeks ago. It's a journey. It's a process. How do you become free? Through doing the work, through going through the process. And it's a long and windy road to get there. And so it's symbolized on the calendar, on the Hebrew calendar, the Jewish calendar, as 7 weeks of 7. And so you go from Passover, 7 weeks of 7 days, 49 days. 49 days later, you have Shavuot, Christians call Pentecost. And it's the receiving of the Torah from a Jewish perspective. You can't receive the Torah, the Bible, the energy of the divine without going through a process. And that's what I want to talk about today. And that's why we've been doing this for 7 weeks of 7, is to go through a process to make ourselves ready to receive. It's like anything. It's like a relationship. Do a lot of relationship counseling. You can't be in a relationship if you're so full of yourself, of your work, of your busyness, and there's no room for other, not just an intimate relationship with your parent, with your child, with your friends. If there's no room for other, there's no room for relationship. And so we have to go through a process in regards to intimate relationships, dating and readying ourselves, and then sometime whenever the time is right, if it's ever right, to be able to enter into that union with another person. And you've gone through a process, a journey. That's what dating is. It's readying yourself for marriage, if that's how you choose to express it on the other end. So there's a process. The divine is a flow. We think of it too often in terms of masculine, in terms of doing, in terms of check marks. Hi, Barb. Welcome. There's something to be done. I'm going to go to the high holiday services and I'm going to do high holidays. I'm going to say my I'm sorries and I'm going to check the boxes and I'm gonna say my prayers, right? In all traditions, that's masculine. It maybe has its place, but the feminine is a relationship, and relationships aren't a checkbox. They're being in process, in formation, and so we go through this journey from Passover to Shavuot as a feminine journey, as a receiving, getting ready to receive and be in relationship, and then when we get there, to fully receive. And that's the deepest secret of Kabbalah. That's why Kabbalah means to receive, lekabel. Kabbalah, if you want to know in a nutshell what Kabbalah is, it's the art of receiving. And it is the hardest art to master. The art of doing is infinitely easier. It's checkboxes. I'm going to go out in the world and I'm going to feed the hungry, right? Halavai. We should all go do that. There's a lot of doing to fix the world. But I know tons and tons of people. I work with clients. My kind of typical client is 50 to 70-year-old woman, accomplished, or man, accomplished out in the world or accomplishing out in the world. And yet oftentimes that accomplishing, that doing has left them empty or left them lacking. And so we back off of the doing and we move into the receiving. And this is an art, and it is not an easy art. Hi, Mom. My mom's on. Mark Cooper's on. Long time no see, Mark. I'm going solo today. Ariela's tending to some house affairs. And I'm going to do more teaching and talking because that's what I do. I'm a rabbi. I don't have the voice to sing, but I do have the mouth to speak. So really talking about process relationship, this divine idea between us and other people, and between us and the divine. And it's a feminine approach. And why am I talking about this feminine approach? A, because it's far more appealing to me than the masculine approach. Again, it's partially why I walked away from, being in a position where I'm supposed to lead services. I'm supposed to lead prayers. I think it's a beautiful thing. It's just not my thing. I feel very uncomfortable kind of doing this and this and this and this as a pathway to get to God, the check boxes. They have their place. It's not my place. Mine is more of sitting. I love sitting in meditation and quieting. I love chanting, going nowhere fast, just kind of going around and around with a word or a tune or a sound. I'll chant. Sometimes I get up every morning, 5:30, and I just chant Om or Ah. Talked about it earlier. As a way just to open myself up, to make myself ready to be the divine, to meet the divine as a lover. And that's the divine feminine. God is a lover, not as a father, not as a mother, but as a lover. How do we meet our lover? By intimacy, by opening ourselves up into me see, right? That means me allowing to be seen. And so I spend this time in the morning opening myself, opening my heart to be in relationship. That's a divine feminine process. And that's where we are on the Sefirot. I'm going to share with you a beautiful teaching that's going to take us into this conversation about divine feminine relationship. It's called what is it called? The Hanoch the shoemaker. Hanoch is a man. He was a shoemaker. And, way back when, and today, it isn't the most highly revered profession. And I think that's why they used this example. Because Hanoch the shoemaker was known to be one of the greatest mystics to have ever lived. And he wasn't particularly skilled in Kabbalah and mystical practices. He wasn't learned. He just did his thing. He worked every day. But the way he worked was divine. And the students of a great mystic couldn't understand why he was so revered as one of the greats. And they said, we watched him, and he doesn't do fancy chanting, and he doesn't do fancy meditation practices. And then read it here, picks up. Perhaps had this disciple said he was meditating on a passage from the Zohar, a mystical text. Another chimed in, maybe he was, chanting these complicated things. And the master teacher who was talking to the student said, no, Hanoch was doing nothing other than being fully inside every stitch of every shoe. And that was his greatness, that he was fully present there. It says with Moses, why was Moses considered the greatest mystic? Not because he was the most articulate. He wasn't. He was a stutterer. Not necessarily because he was the most intellectual. Because he met God panim el panim, face to face, as lovers do. Right? Human beings, face to face, seeing one another. It doesn't have to just be sexual lover, intimacy. Right? When you love somebody, you're a lover. You're looking at them. The most frustrating, if not disrespectful thing we can do is when somebody's talking to us, baring their soul, to look away, to not look at them, to be looking at the TV while they're talking to you. My kids do this all the time. It drives me nuts. I say, look at me, the eyes, the window of the soul. Panim el panim, face to face, seeing the divine. And when Hanoch was in that place, he was the greatest mystic. The story goes on to talk about how he fell away because he was so present in all those stitches, he made the most beautiful shoes in the world. People started coming to him. And he got busier and busier and busier. And the story goes that ultimately he was no longer the great mystic. Not because he didn't know the great teachings, but not because he didn't know the practices, because he was no longer living panim el panim, face to face. Panim is also this word, not just face, but lifnei, inside. And that's where we meet the divine, on the inside. So again, it's not going out and calling out to God. It's being present with the divine, being there face to face, being there with others. That's where we find divinity. What's our stitch, right? What's our stitch, our work in this world where we show up and we're fully present there, not thinking about tomorrow, not living in the past, but right there fully present. Somebody I'm counseling said, what gives you, and they were asking me, what gives you ultimate meaning? Because we were talking about their ultimate meaning. That's what I do. I help people find meaning. It's logotherapy, meaning-centered therapy, inspired by Viktor Frankl. Ultimately, where I find the greatest meaning is being radically present. And I'm not always there, but when I can be there radically present for my wife, for my children, for my clients, for my family, radically present. I am not in the future. I am not in the past. I am holding this sacred space. That is, to me, the greatest gift I can give somebody and give myself. That's my stitch. Right? What's your stitch? What takes you into radical presence of the divine? And that's where we're at today. We are... show you this picture. We're looking at the Sefirot. Remember this? We've been on this journey for 7 weeks. If you haven't seen this, you can download it online. It's really hard to see, I think, right now. But it's the tree of life. And we've been journeying for 7 weeks of 7, bringing the divine presence down into our lives in the journey. And to this week, we're right here. We're the bottom one. We really look at these after Passover, the 7, bottom 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And today we're in Malchut, the bottom one. It's the last one before Shavuot. And it's about radical presence. And that's why I'm talking about this. What brings you into the present moment? And what that thing is, that's where you need to be. That's what you need more of. The things that are distracting, that take you away from the present, that's where you need to find ways to bring yourself back to center. I hate traditional religious words of shame, right? Sin and transgression and all of these words that have pushed so many Christians and Jews away. What we're doing is we're reclaiming authentic religion, right? In this conversation and our work together here. What does that mean? The words originally conveyed exactly what I'm talking about. So what is translated as sin? What in Hebrew? The word Torah means direction. It comes from the Hebrew word lirot, to shoot an arrow. It's a direction you head in life. And so the Torah isn't about check boxes. That's masculine again. It's about being in relationship with the divine, with the world, and moving in a rhythm forward. That's Torah. What is Jewish law called? Jewish law is called halacha, the way. It is not about, again, do's and don'ts, thou shalt not. It is about a pathway that you walk gently. And what happens when you walk a path in life, in any area of life? You drift. We're human beings. We drift in directions away from it. Now, oftentimes traditional religion has called it transgression or sin. But the Hebrew is quite beautiful. What is a sin in Hebrew? An aveirah. An aveirah means to drift away. Another word in Hebrew for sin is chet. Chet is missing the mark. Again, if Torah is to shoot an arrow, it's direction. Chet is missing the mark. And the delta, the difference between where you set out and where you ended up, that's the work to bring you back to the path. And it's not about keeping kosher and observing the Sabbath and going to church and going to synagogue and all these other things. If that helps you find your way, then that's part of your way. But there's 1,000 ways we move forward in this direction, in this rhythm, right? Finding this divine rhythm in our lives. And when we stray, we need to find our way back to our rhythm. Hanoch, the shoemaker, had his way. It was simply stitching those shoes and putting his heart and his soul in it. And then he got busy, and then he got successful, and he started to drift away from who he was, from his divine name. We all have a divine name that's in relationship with the divine. So this week's work, Malchut, the last of this journey of the Kabbalah Sefirot from Passover to Shavuot, from the holiday of Passover to the holiday of Shavuot, which is next week, is about returning back to our path, finding our Chanoch, our way, and entering back into the relationship with the divine. And that's Shavuot. So next week we're going to talk more about it, but we celebrate the holiday of Shavuot where we receive Torah. And in order to receive the Torah, you have to be fully present. You have to be fully in relationship to receive the Torah of anybody. And we're all sharing Torah. It isn't just the 5 books of Moses. When you're sharing your heart and your soul, that's your Torah. And somebody on the other side of it needs to be there to receive it. And when somebody's sharing their heart and soul with us, we have to receive it. That's their Torah to us. And so we have to be present. And that presence is a divine gift that we can give each other and that we can give ourselves and that we can give to the Creator. And so that's really what we've been doing for these past 7 weeks, is exploring the different ways the divine is crying out to us, calling out to us, and the different ways that we receive her in all of her glory and all of her beauty. And that is the work of Passover to Shavuot. And that's what we will continue to discuss next week as we really continue on. What does it mean to receive Torah in our lives? So with that, I'm going to end earlier today than usual, call it a day. And hey, Irv Moskowitz just joined us. We're starting to wrap up here. We're going to just do a couple prayers, and then we're going to say goodbye. So with that, how about we didn't do the Shema? I like to do the Shema. For those of you who don't know it, it's a very simple chant. And it helps us remember, right, oneness, that God, that the divine is all around us and within us. And again, the key is to be less fragmented until we cover our eyes by shutting out all the noise, all the distractions, and we say the words of the Shema. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Very simple chants. Shema, 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 Shemaya, Shema, Shema, Shemaya, Shema, Shema, Shemaya, Shema, Shema, Shemaya. And for those of you who are observing a yard site, who are missing a loved one, I will do Kaddish. Kaddish is just a beautiful chant to remind us that our loved ones are always present with us, even if we can't see them, we can feel them. This divine presence doesn't go away. If somebody has seen you, if you have seen them in this lifetime, as we've been talking about and what that means, then that stays. It stays here. It stays in your heart, but it also stays in this world. That's energy. Their spirit is here very much with you. And so we'll just do a very simple chant to remind us of that they are gone, they are not forgotten, and they are very much here, present in different ways. Yitkadal ve'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah Yehi Shemei Rabbah mevorach Le'olam almei almaya Yitkadal ve'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah Yehi Shemei Rabbah mevorach Le'olam olmei almaya. May the one within and above bless us with your love, and may the source of infinite light guide us in our life. May the one within and above bless us with your love, and may the source of infinite light guide us in our life. Shalom, 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 shalom. So again, this was a special Shabbat, Saturday morning soul experience without Ariella. She will, God willing, be back next week. Do less talking and more singing, more chanting. I would also like to, we're going to start playing with, I'm going to talk to my IT specialist about doing Zoom soul experience. So that way we have people in the room with us. It's a little challenging talking to a screen, looking at yourself. I do appreciate seeing your names on the side, and I appreciate you chiming in. Would love to start exploring with new ways to build virtual community. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned, and you can be in the room with us. You don't even have to sing, or you can mute yourself if you don't want to be heard, but at least that way during the conversations, it can be more of a conversation. So would love to hear from you, would love to work with you. Again, I work with clients now full-time exclusively, one-on-one and in groups, as does Ariella. And my area of passion and expertise is, thanks Ari, thanks for being here, is working with people in really three areas as I've now come to see it: loss, life, and legacy. And they all get to the same place, but they're different pathways in. Where some people going through loss, it can be loss certainly of a loved one, it can be loss of job, it can be loss of security during time of coronavirus, it can be loss of identity during times of retirement or divorce or what might be. To help bring people in through the doorway of loss, life, all kinds of life transitions, especially, not limited to, but especially around midlife transition and what I call sunset transition, which is kind of afternoon of life and later, helping people navigate that, and then legacy. And really everybody is dealing with legacy. I've become very passionate about this word. It's not just what we leave behind us, right? It's the embodiment of our life and our loved ones' lives that's still here. We think of legacy as if we're gone, but in fact, it's the opposite. Legacy is what remains. And I think of it oftentimes as defying death. How do we defy death? By creating a legacy while we're here that's going to outlast our physical mortality, or after our loved ones have gone, the stuff that's here that continues to permeate and inspire. And so really helping people find the truth in their life, their meaning, what is real, what is enduring, and that cannot die. And again, it can happen around loss. It can happen around life transitions. It can happen around sort of end of life and thinking about legacy. But wherever it happens, it should happen. And I hope it happens for you, that you really start thinking deeply about what is my legacy? Am I living it while I'm here? Because you can't leave what you aren't, right? You can't leave behind what you aren't already. And so legacy is about living your meaning, your purpose, your truth. And that remains here whenever it is you transition to the next world, and inspiring, right, those who will be here long after you're gone. So that's the work I do. I do it through one-on-one counseling. I'm also now moving into groups, and I have a couple different groups going. Some are more around kind of end of life issues. Some are more around midlife issues. But really just excited to start exploring more groups, as well as continuing on with one-on-one counseling. And then these experiences, soul-centered experiences, are just going to continue on as these offerings online to build virtual community. So with that, I hope you have a Shabbat Shalom, a soulful Sunday tomorrow, a meaningful Memorial Day on Monday. Don't forget to pay tribute to those who have fought and died for this country, who have given their lives in service. And so make sure on Monday you do something. It can be as minimal as just taking some time to reflect upon the service, the great service of men and women who have given everything so that we could have everything in this God's greatest country in the history of humanity, America. So take some time on Monday to pay tribute. I'm going to be taking my kids across the street to the military section of the cemetery, and we're going to go talk about Israel Baal Shem Tov, a great mystic, and his idea that forgetfulness leads to exile and memory is the source of redemption. I'm talking to them about why it's so important for us to remember those who came before us, and particularly the men and women who fought and defended our lives and give us freedom. So we're going to have a little conversation about that. Wherever it is, or however it is you choose to pay tribute, I just thank you in advance for paying tribute. And God bless America. God bless you. And I'll see you all next week, God willing, with my beautiful Ariella here and her voice and her soul. And until then, shalom, salam, peace, namaste.